I would like to go over the things I use often during productions. This may or may not be used during the tutorial, but I think it's good to understand and learn the basics of each add-on. So let's start with box cutter. So you see I have Hot-Ops and box cutter installed here. To enable it, just by clicking it, or you can just by pressing Alt W, and then you see it turns on. And the version I'm having right now is 7.187. Make sure you have the same version or anything after this. So the main hotkey to bring up the pie menu of box cutter is press D. You can see you have the pie menu. You can have access to different cutter type. So right now I'm actually in the box. So now you just select the thing and then you can already make a cut. By pressing D, now you can go to circle to make a circle. Maybe turn on the wireframe. So another tip is to, when you press circle and then hold on Alt Shift, now you can actually increase the segment. If you look at the lower right corner, you can see how many segments you have. Let's say I wanted to make it 30 sided circle, and then now you make a cut that has 30 division. Or you can actually hold on Alt and then cycle through different cutter. If you look at the upper left corner, you can see line box, wedge box, custom cutter, end gown, lasso, circle. So let's say I want to go back to the box, and then let's make a wedge cut. So you make a selection, and then by pressing W, it will cycle through to a wedge. So in order to get rid of the weird shading over here, you go to this triangle thing called Object Data Properties and go to Normals. So let's lower the Auto Smooth angle. Now you see the weird shading is gone. Another tip is when you, let's say I press Alt and go back to box, make a box cut. So now by pressing tab, you kind of just pause it. So you can now further adjust this cutter, make it deeper. The blue dot is the bevel. By pressing any elsewhere, you accept the change. One more thing is when you drag the box, if you press Shift, it will leave the cutter stay in the screen. So now, because if you look at the other ones, if you make a cut, the cutter will disappear after you finish the cutting. So now if I do this and press Shift, you see the cutter lifts on the screen. Now you can actually modify this cutter. Let's say I want to press G to move it, or you can go to Hot-Op. Just go to Hot-Op for now, and then if I do a bevel, so now you see I can actually throw a bevel modifier, and if I press H to hide it, and now you see I make a cut with the bevel around it. Let's say I want to make a cut around here. You can see now it has angle. So if you're just using the default, it will kind of line up towards this edge. In order to line up with, make the cutter line up with this edge, you press Shift V and go to Object and then Nearest Edge. So now when you draw the cutter, it will follow this edge instead. Let's say I want to make a cut in the middle of this surface. You can enable the snapping. So when you turn it on, you press Control. You will see there's some dots in the middle, and then you will see this is right in the middle. So when you drag your cutter, that's in the center of the surface. Another thing I use often is let's say I make a cut, and then by pressing T, you actually it will throw a solidify modifier on top. So you will see it makes a panel cut around the box. You can also do some pretty cool array cut. Let's say I want to make a series cutter here, so by pressing V, and then now it's in the wrong. Let's say I want to make it around this along the y-axis, so by pressing X it will actually go to, so you can cycle through different axes. Let's say I want to you can roll the mouse wheel to increase or lower the number of the cutter, and then by pressing by move the mouse left and right, you can actually adjust the distance between the array. You can just accept it like that, so you can see it actually makes the array cut very easily. You can also use a box cutter to make big silhouette changes. Let's say, let's go to side view, and then by pressing D, go to end gown, and then see now I can make a big changes to the silhouette. Or let's say I want to go back to D and go to box. Now I can make a big changes to the shape as well. Another thing I use often is the slice cut. So make sure you select the object, make a cut. Before you commit and accept with the left click, you press X. So that will give you a slice cut. What you can also do is make a cut, and then you can cycle through just by keep pressing X. You can cycle through different type. So this is an insetting cut, that's a normal cutting, and then this is slicing, and then intersecting. Let's say I want to make an insetting cut, so that's what you have. So that's pretty much the things I use often in box cutter. Let's move on to hard ops. So the hard op version I'm using right now is 0.9.87.11. Make sure you grab the same version or anything newer than this. To start it, the default hotkey is Q, by pressing Q. So the things I use most often is the top three. So let's say I want to throw a bevel modifier on top of this thing. Now we can move the mouse left and right to give a bevel, and then roll the mouse wheel to increase or decrease the segment of the bevel. You can also go to the modifier stack. Let's say I want to add more segment to the bevel. You can actually change it here, and then change the amount, like the width of the bevel here. Another thing is you actually can press Shift-Alt-B to bring up this menu, and you can divide the width by half or times by 2. So let's say I want to make it smaller, and then or you can choose a default here, 0.01. Let's say I want to make that, and then I want 6.7. That's how you do it. And then one thing I use is called weighted normal. So by selecting this thing, press Q, and then go to sharpen. By pressing Alt, sharpen, you throw a weighted normal modifier in the stack. You can see we have some weird shading around this corner and here. In order to fix that, let's go to edit mode and then go to the edge. You can see those edges are assigned to as a hard edge. Maybe to turn the crease, seam, and then bevel off, so you can see whatever is assigned to cyan color, that means those are assigned as sharp edge. So you can select those and right click, clear sharp, and then now go back to the object mode. You can see clear that issue. Another issue we see is some like weird pinching around this corner. Let's find that cutter. So what you do is press Q, go to ever scroll. So now just by rolling the mouse wheel, you can actually cycle through the cutters in your modifier stack. Let's find that one, and then just zoom in, take a look. Let's go to the wireframe mode. Actually, you can see there's some overlapping faces there. So I think it's because the bevel is too tight here, so they start like overlap each other. Maybe lower one segment. Okay, I think that fixed the issue. Okay, hide the cutter. Okay, let's go down the list. Go to operation. Another thing I use often is the smart apply. So basically it will apply all the boolean cuts and leave the bevel modifier and the weighted normal in the stack. You can see it clear all the booleans and then just leave those two modifier. So you can still go back to change the setting of the bevel. And then you can see if you go to edit mode, and then all the cutter has been applied. And then the mirror is something I also use very often. So basically, when you're in the object mode, you can press Alt X, and then just if you want to mirror this side to that side, you select this cube here. So basically, it will throw a mirror modifier in the stack. You can also continue press Alt X. Now you mirror to this side as well. Shift A, let's start something new. Let's do box cutter, make some cut here. Press B, bevel, and then accept. Make another cut. Press D, circle. Press tab to pause, and then drag it. Oops. Press D, circle. Press tab, pause. Drag the size, make it bigger. Shift Alt, roll the mouse to give more segment. Maybe press H to hide it. Let's say I want to keep all the boolean as non-destructive and I want to make a duplication. If you press Shift D, Shift D, and then you see you make a duplication, even it still have the boolean modifier in stack because you moved the position, it lost the it's not parent, all the cutter is not parent to this object. Proper way of making duplication is press Q, operation, and then we need to use Uniquify. So basically hold on Shift and then click Uniquify. Now you're making a duplication, but it will keep track of all the boolean cut. So this is still live. Let's say I want to move this cutter to the other side, and you can still do that. So if you go to let's go to the edit mode, you can see it's still a cube with all the cutter as a modifier. So if you want to commit all the changes, press Q and use the smart apply we talked about earlier. Now if you go to edit mode, so now let's just hide all the cutters. So now if you go to edit mode, you actually have all the cutter applies to the cube. So let's say I want to make some like a destructive adjustment to the shape. You can see you can do that now. But for this, if you want to make a curve, bevel here, you technically can't because it's technically still a cube. If you do this, you're actually selecting the original cube. You can still bevel, but you can actually select this little edge right here like this. So you can see the curve of bevel is actually applied to here instead of here. Okay, now let's go to edit mode. Say I want to select this, Control B, and make a bevel here. Let's say I want to make a pipe or like holes in this shape. Now in the edit mode, you select the shape, and then you go to Q. When you're in edit mode, you'll bring up a totally different menu. So now let's say I want to create the pipe I was talking about. Now you can go to curve and extract and move the mouse left and right. You can actually create pipe shape and follow this curve along. And then by rolling the mouse wheel, you can increase the segment of the curve, the pipe. And then by pressing S, now you make it smooth. So now you have a really nice shape. So now it can kind of become a handle. So when you go to edit mode, it's still a curve. So in order to make it, make it into a geometry, you press Control A and then visual geometry to mesh. Now if you go to edit mode, so now it's actually a mesh. Another cool use of the curve extract function, let's go to edit mode. Let's say I select this face and go to Q, curve extract, pause there. You can see if I hold on shift, you can use that selection and make it as a plate. So hold on shift, click, and then move the mouse left and right. You actually create a plate in that shape. So another way of doing that is you select the face, Q, and now you press Control instead of shift. Now you make a duplication. Now it becomes just a face in that shape. And then you can go to modifier, solidify. You can do add solidification that way instead. So, but this is actually just combine two steps into one. Okay, let's make a panel cut. Edit mode, press K, press C, constrain, and press Z to cut through. Accept. So you make a cut. And now you go to press Q, and then go to EM macro. And then by pressing hold on shift, you can actually make a panel edge. So by move the mouse left and right, you actually bring that ledge in or out. And then by holding Control, move left and right, you bring the gap closer or further. And then you can also press press S. Now you actually have a taper. So that's a good way of making a panel line. So go back to object mode, and then go to the side view, go to box cutter. I want to make a cut maybe around here. So make sure you go to align with view, and then press D. Let's say I want to pick Ngang. Maybe make a cut here. Select the object like that. Double click. So you see, you make a cut through the object. Now just apply the changes, the cut I just made. Smart apply, and then go to edit mode. Select the face. Now you can go to Q, and then go to ST3 Mesh Tools, Align View. You can see now this face is perpendicular to the view. You can scroll your mouse wheel, so it will cycle through basically based on the face you just select. Or you can hold on Alt. Now you will rotate this way. Or you can hold on Control to rotate orbit rotation. And then also you can do Shift, so it will rotate this way. So you can see it will give you a lot of options for when you want to align to a certain view. Not let's say now I want to move this part perpendicular to that. So now go to View, and then go to your verse here. Press go to Select Move. So now it's actually perpendicular to this face. Okay, let's do some cloth simulation. Let's select the face here, and then press Q, and then go to curve extract. Hold on Control, click. Now you make a duplication. So now this thing is separate. What you can do is press Q again, and then go to submute, and then press Q. Go to dice. So now add a little more geo to the surface. Press Z. Resolution to the Z-axis, and then also we need something in the X. Press X, click. So you can see now we have we add a little bit more geometry to that. Now press Ctrl 1, so you add subdivision to that, and then again press Q, go to Add Modifier, Cloth, and then press S. Now you can see we start a simulation. So you can play around here. Oh, this. Let's make it 50. Make it more wrinkle. Actually, point so less wrinkle. So more wrinkle. Let's say apply. Now we can give a modifier by pressing Ctrl 1 or 2 to give a little bit more resolution. So you can see how easy you can actually create some pretty nice like pouch look to that. Okay, let's demonstrate the radio array. Press Shift A to create a cylinder in the scene. Now go to box cutter, press D. Oh, I guess we're already in the circle, that's what I want. Make sure you're in object and then make a cut here. So press Q, ever scroll to bring back the cutter. Pull this out a little bit. So while you have this cutter selected, press Q and then go to Mesh Tool Radio Array. And then by pressing C, so now the cutter will be arrayed around the 3D cursor is. So now by rolling the mouse wheel, you can increase or decrease the number of the cutter. So that is how easy you can create something like this. So press Alt V will bring up the viewport menu. So one thing I use often is the face orientation. So it will help you check if you have a flip normal. Let's say now I go to edit mode, select this, and then press Alt N and flip it. So now you see any flip normal will be displayed as a red color. So that's a good way to check if you have anything, any face that's a flip. Now press Alt V to go back, turn off the face orientation. You can also turn on wireframe from there. Another thing I use often is the EVHQ. So we'll actually help you turn on shadow, crease, and then ridge edge. So you can actually see, it gives you a better understanding of the shape instead of flat. If you press that, actually Alt V, EVLQ, low quality, so you can see. You can adjust here. So that's pretty much what I want to cover for hard ops. Okay, let me quickly show you what I use machine tools for. Let's turn this off, make this smaller, and then split the screen. And then let's go to preferences. And then you type machine, it will bring up a machine tools add-on menu here. So you can see the blue ones are the ones I actually use often. Machine has a really detailed tutorial for each section in his YouTube channel. You can check it out there. So I'm not going to cover every single one. I'm just going to go over the ones I use often. First thing is the tab, the so-called MoPi. So when you press tab, it will bring up this the MoPi here. So you can quickly swipe to, let's say, select the face and then tap, go up, and then you will change to object mode, tap, edge mode. So basically it's kind of similar to what Maya has as his marking menu. You can quickly tap and then swipe, tap to change between different mode. Another thing is press Ctrl S. You can open up Save Pi. So you can quickly save or have an incremental save or save as. So what I also use often is the FBX exporter here. Yeah, so it's pretty self-explanatory. So if you go to the the edit mode, let's say select this and then select this less and then press Alt A and then press left. So this reverse will align to whatever select less. Let's say I want to align all the three to here. Select that and then select this less and then press Alt A and swipe. So now it's actually aligned. If you go to side view, so you can see actually aligned to this birds. I found this very, very useful. Let's say now if I want to go to select all this and make sure they are aligned to this. Swipe. Oh, I guess I select that, but you can see you can quickly align verts along based on the viewpoint. You can also change the axis, but I use the view option most of the time. Another thing I use often is the cursor. So Shift S. Now let's say you can see the pivot is here and the 3D cursor is here. If I want to select the vert here and then press Shift S, and then you can bring the origin to the curve, to the vert here. Maybe it's hard to see. You can see now the origin moved to here, and then let's say let's go back to the vert, and then press Shift S, and then move the cursor to the vert. So now the 3D cursor moved to where you select your vert selection is. You can see how quickly you can move origin and the 3D cursor. Same thing applies to edge as well. So let's say I want to move my origin to here. Select the edge, Shift S to edge. So now the origin moved to here, and then now you can move the 3D cursor to that point as well. And any point you want to reset that 3D cursor back to the world origin, Shift S to origin. Now it's in the center of the world. Now the transform pie. So what I have, I map it to my my mouse key here. So pretty much the same thing as what you see on around here. So it's just kind of handy to quickly change between different orientation or the pivot point. Another thing is the snapping pie. So same thing, you can also find it up here. I just found it. I just bind it to the mouse. I can actually quickly show you where my key maps bind to. So you don't have to follow this. It's just what I prefer to use. Let's say I want to do a merge last. Select this, and then the last vert, just by pressing Alt 1. That's what I bind it to. So now you'll merge last. Another thing I use is now you can actually select this too, and then go Shift 1. So you will kind of merge it into the center. Same thing here. So I use that often when I do optimization. Another thing is, let's say I want to move this vert along this tangent. So I select this and then select this vert and then press Ctrl Shift 1. So now you see actually move along this tangent space. It could be really helpful in some situation. Another thing I use often before I export the model out for baking is I need to do manual triangulation. So select the first vert and then Control select the last one, and then Shift select this one and then press 5. It will help you connect all the verts to whatever is select last. So I bind it to key map 5. Another way of doing it, you can actually go to Q and then under operations, and then it's called Start Connect, which is the same thing. So another useful thing is when you in edit mode press Alt X, it will kind of mirror along, I guess because right now I have my pivot in here, undo. You can see it's actually mirror along this pivot here. So let's move this back to the center. Press Shift S and move to that vert. Now when you press Alt X, so you can see actually mirror along this axis here where your selected pivot is. So this is pretty much what I want to cover for machine tools. It includes a lot of handy little tools, will help you save a lot of time. Let's move on to the next add-on. Mesh Machine is another very powerful add-on. Let me just demonstrate a couple very useful features. So let's go to Edit mode, go to Face, select the rounded bevel here. Press Y, and then now you can unfuse. So basically you bring it back to a bevel, like a chamfer. You can also remove the chamfer and revert it back to the box. You can see it's really powerful. Let's say now I select the edge, Control B, make a new bevel, and then press Y, and then go to fuse. And then now you just bring back to a rounded bevel. You can also roll your mouse wheel to increase or decrease the segment of how round you want the bevel edge. Let's say I press I and do a insert. So you can see there's some like vertex bundle, and then create some overshoot here. So what you can do is press 2, go to your edge mode, select the beginning of that like bunch, and select the last one, Control select, and then press Y and go to on F. Now you kind of loosen it, so you can see it's really useful for that. Okay, also demonstrate here. Select the first one, and then Control select the last to select the last one in the loop. Press Y on F. Now you can move your mouse left and right, and then scroll the mouse wheel up and down to propagate. You can see it's really powerful. Do again. Go to face mode, select the face loop, press Y, fuse, roll the mouse wheel to increase the roundness, the segment of that bevel. And then you can actually press Z or Y to change the tension of that bevel corner. And let's say I move this, so actually do this. Let's say I want to make sure the surface, you can see it's not flat. Let's say I want to change this, so select first one, second one, last one, press Y, and then flatten. You can see it actually make the surface flat. Select the edge loop, Shift select, Control B, make a 1 segment bevel. Go to face mode, select the face loop, press Y, fuse, select the face loop, Y, fuse, and then Control select the edge loop again, press Y, chamfer, Y, fuse, increase the segment, go to object mode, now go to the matte cap. You can see there's some shading issue. Now you can press Q and then Alt sharpen, so you throw a weighted normal modifier on top to correct the normal information. Okay, let's demonstrate the normal transfer and the Boolean cleanup, which I think is the most powerful features from a Mesh Machine. What I would do is make a duplication, Shift D. Let's move it to the side first. So now we go to Edit Mode, select the vert, Shift S, and move the 3D cursor to where the vert is. Go back to Object Mode, Shift A, and then that's at a cylinder. Press S, scale it down, rotate a little bit, so kind of like this. And then select the source, the target, press Q, and then make a differences. So now you can hide the cutter by press H. So now let's do a Boolean cleanup. we need to actually apply the boolean. So either you do it here, apply, or you can do a smart apply. Let's do that, smart apply. Now you go to the edit mode, select edge loop, press Y, and then boolean cleanup, and then by roll the mouse up, scroll up and down, you can actually cycle through between profile A and B. So what we want to keep is the cylinder where the green dot is. Now by move the mouse left and right, you can see the red dot, which is original on the source shape. Now it will merge to where the green dot is to clean up the boolean. Left click to accept it, and then press Y, and then let's do a chamfer. And then now press Y and then fuse. Let's do around the bevel there. You can see the bevel is really clean, but there's still some shading issue around here. That's where the normal transfer comes in. So let's bring this back in. Let's reset it to 0 so they're aligned on top of each other. Press Y and now stash it, so it will remember normal information of the original. Now select the one with the boolean cut, and then press Y, transfer stash. So basically transfer the stash information to the one with the boolean cut. Now you go to the edit mode and then select the face that with some shading issue, and then maybe go to the matte cap just to see, and then press Y and then normal transfer, and then by pressing D you can see how much it fixes. Pretty much just the original shape doesn't have that cutout, so you have a very smooth transition between the face. So basically you're transferring that normal information to this new shape with the cutout. Oh, actually remember to get rid of the weighted normal. So because you're actually already transferred the normal information, you don't want the weighted normal to screw it up afterward. So you can see now it's really smooth. So that's pretty much what I want to cover for machine tools, box cutter, hot ops, and mesh machine. Now you have an understanding what they are capable of, and then where you can use it in your workflow. Hope you find this helpful, and then let's move on to the actual remote tutorial.